Hello, everybody. This is Dr.Udayaravi Shastry. I'm a teacher, a linguist, and a writer. I wish to share with you today some points on the review of literature. At the outset, I congratulate all of you for having showed interest in research. I shall share my slide with you. Okay. Well, review of literature is today's topic. I shall be sharing some of the points I think important with you. Well, as I told you, a PhD is the highest degree a person can attain in the academia. So this must be taken with utmost diligence and seriousness. This is the degree you pursue for the longest duration and the only degree where you set your own syllabus. The initial stages of the research is more important than the submission, presentation, and the defense of the research dissertation that takes place at the later course. What we discuss today is the review of literature, which is just a part of your thesis that appears initially, but bears a significant role in the defining and in defining the scope and the format of the chapters to follow. This is a huge corpus of research methodology. We must identify at this point of time where exactly we are, because I'm sure you have listened to a lecture before this and shall be listening to a few more after this lecture. Well, before building a house, you must make sure where exactly your site is located, what you have in the neighborhood, and the topography of your site. Well, when you go to the newly laid out extension of a city, you'll find a huge cement board displaying the plan of the extension. On the map, you will find an arrow mark, which is called an ideolocator, which shows you are here. Okay. Only when we know where we are, we can make out where we have to go by the help of the map. So also here in this 5-day FDP, this is where you are. You are here. That is in the beginning of the second chapter. Okay. I suggest you to have a piece of paper and a pen with you while you listen to this lecture. You may gather at least a couple of useful points. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to understand why you need a literature review in your dissertation and how to organize a write-up of the literature review. I shall restrict my talk only to this part of the research work methodology, review of literature. Okay, this bears relevance and is important because it is a mandatory section of the thesis. Review of literature can be a part of the first chapter, or it can be included in the second chapter, and this has the potential of treating it as an independent chapter by itself. But For everything, you will have to consult your guide. Let your guide decide where exactly this should be fitted. After defining what it is, why review of literature is needed, I shall explain how material is to be gathered from various sources and finally try to tell you how it is to be structured. Well, what is a review of literature? A literature review is simply a summary of what existing scholarship knows about a particular topic. It is always based on secondary sources, that is, what other people have already written on the subject. It is not concerned about discovering new knowledge or information at all. As such, it is a prelude to further research, a digest of scholarly opinions. A literature review should focus only on the relevant academic literature. Popular or non-academic sources may be brought in occasionally to illustrate a point, but the central interest is always on the data collected for the theories put together by recognized experts in the field. You may be wondering why you must worry about literature when you are doing your research in science. The word literature means any available data or research work in the topic concerned. Even research papers and theses written in science and commerce may be called literature. Your literature review should show that you have an up-to-date awareness of relevant literature. It should also show that the research question you are asking is relevant. However, don't promise too much. Be wary of saying that your research will solve a problem or that it will change practice. You should be more realistic to say that your research will address a gap rather than it will fill the gap. The review of literature is a summary of all the various research literatures related to the current study carried out by the researcher. It helps to discover what is already known about the research problem and what more has to be done. A review of literature is both a summary and an explanation of the complete and current state of knowledge on a limited topic as found in the academic books and journal articles. In the process, it demonstrates the gaps or shortcomings in previous research that your work will fill. A literature review is an interpretation and synthesis of published work of literature relevant to your project. Okay, why do we need a literature review? It proves an excellent starting point for researchers beginning to do research in a new area by forcing them to summarize, evaluate, and compare original research in that specific area. It ensures that researchers do not duplicate work that has already been done. You can take the example of Srinivasa Ramanujan, a mathematical genius without formal education. He invented a lot of mathematical theorems that already existed because he was not formally educated. If he had known it in his time, if he had known it earlier that these theorems already existed, he could have saved a lot of time and energy that could have been invested on greater things. That should not happen to us. It can provide clues as to where further research is heading. It highlights key findings. Literature review identifies inconsistencies, gaps, and contradictions in the literature. It provides a constructive analysis of the methodologies and approaches of other researchers. Since the purpose of literary review is to demonstrate that the writer is familiar with the important professional literature on the chosen subject, check to make certain that you have covered all of the important, up-to-date and pertinent texts. In the sciences and some other social sciences, it is important that your literature be quite recent. This is not so important in the humanities. It helps to identify what is already known about a research problem. It helps to build on previous knowledge. Many published research studies contain recommendations for further research, from which we can get idea for a new research study. It makes researchers know what research has already been done in a particular area so as to avoid duplication. It is necessary to know to narrow the problem to be studied, identify questions that the body of research does not answer. It helps researcher to get acquainted with the relevant theory, strategies, tools, and instruments for conducting the research. It helps to understand the different ways of conducting the research study. Okay, then before that, the characteristics of a good quality review of literature is to be comprehensive. It should include up-to-date references. It should be reproducible. It should be free from bias, and it should be well written. It should be in the form of sum of its parts, synergy. It should be clearly searched and selected. Accurate references should be given in the review. Okay, what are the types of reviews of literature? You have the traditional or the narrative review of literature. This method reviews criticism and summarizes the data. It uses more well-defined approach, mainly used for making a complete list of all published and unpublished studies relating to the particular topic. Then you have the systemic review of literature. This type of review takes large quantitative findings and conducts a statistical analysis to integrate those findings, enhance understanding. The other type is the meta-analysis. This is a non-statistical method used to integrate and evaluate and interpret the findings of multiple similar quantitative studies to identify the common elements. Well, what are the sources of review of literature? Literature sources may be classified as primary sources and secondary sources. Primary sources are written by the original researcher. It is the research publication written by the person or people who conduct the research. For example, research articles, unpublished theses, dissertation, personal diary, handwritten records, and reports. Literature review mostly relies on primary sources, that is, research reports, which are descriptions of studies written by researchers who conducted them. A primary source is written by a people who developed the theory or conducted the research, or is the description of an investigation written by the person who conducted it. Well, what is the secondary resource? These are second-hand information prepared or written by someone other than the original author. For example, newspapers, book chapters, television, radio, magazine, reviews, websites like Wikipedia, journals, etc. They are written by people other than the individuals who developed the theory or conducted the research. The secondary source may be used only when the primary sources are not available, or if the researcher wants external opinions on an issue or problems or even the results of their own research. Okay, well, the resources of literature review. If you look at this diagram, you will see that there are several different resources. The electronic database is the most widely used one, which is very popular these days. When I did my research, we hardly had any internet or any computer facilities for that matter. Well, I get back to electronic database and books, the most reliable but very difficult to find source: books, journals, conference papers, thesis, encyclopedia and dictionary, research reports, and magazines and newspapers. These are the resources of literary review. Okay. Hand searching of journals is one of the ways of finding relevant material. This was done earlier, even now it is done by a few very meticulous people, but the most likely literature search is electronically done. However, it can be surprisingly useful to look through the contents page and the individual articles of print journals. When hand searching journals, it is best to focus on the most relevant journals of your research topic. Also, limit yourself to volumes from the last year or 2 years previous to ensure that you look at the most up-to-date research. Well, the electronic research. Searching electronic database is the quickest way to access a lot of material. Guidance will be available via your own institution websites and via the relevant academic librarian. I shall give you details about that in time to come. Key publications for your subject may also be accessible electronically. These might include collections of policy documents, standards, archive material, videos, and audio recordings. Electronic sources. Computer-assisted literature search has revolutionized the review of literature. These searches, however, for a variety of reasons, may not provide the desired reference. Electronic literature searches through the webs may be very useful, but sometimes it can be time consuming and unpredictable because there are many websites and web pages that can lead to information overload and confusion. However, currently it is one of the most important sources of literary research. General literature can search. General literature search can be conducted through search engines like Yahoo Search, Google Scholar, Google.com, MSN Search, Lycos, Webcrawler, AltaVista, etc. And while searching for this information, you can use these techniques. These are very important techniques which I was not aware of very recently. The wildcard is an advanced search technique that can be used to maximize your search results in library database. Wildcards are used in search terms to represent one or more other characters. The two most commonly used wildcards are an asterisk may be used to specify any number of characters. Okay, it is not asterisk as many people pronounce, it is asterisk. Okay, for your information. The wildcard is an advanced search technique that can be used to maximize your search results in library databases. Wildcards are used in search terms to represent one or more other characters. The other one is a question mark, may be used to represent a single character anywhere in the world. It is most useful when there are variable spellings for a word and you want to search for all variants at once. For example, searching for color, C-O-L-O-R or C-O-L-O-U-R. You put a question mark and you will get those details. Well, then you have the Boolean operator to help narrow down your search. B-O-O-L-E-N, Boolean operator. And or not. It's usually used in the computer language, which I'm not aware of. And A-N-D to find sources that contain more than one keyword. Example, social media and body image and generation Z, etc. You can keep on adding. Or to find sources that contain one of a range of synonyms. Example, generation Z or teenagers or adolescents. Not to exclude results containing certain terms. Apple, not fruit. Okay, so that's it. Let us see some common URL types. Have I shared the screen with you? Yeah. Here it is. These are some of the common URL types. URL is nothing but the website addresses. You must have observed that at the end of the website address, you find certain words like .com, .org, .edu, .gov, and .mil. Let us see what they are and how reliable they are. First of all, .com. One of the most common domain suffixes is .com. It signals a commercial website. This is usually a website for a business or a service, and its main objective is sales. And many news websites are also .com sites. .com websites should be used with extreme caution beyond basic information. Examine news websites very carefully for bias. It could be biased. And all the information that you get in a .com website is not reliable, particularly for making use of it in your research paper. Next you have .org. .org or the websites ending with .org or organizations. Org is a short form of organization. Organization websites usually for member organizations or non-profitable organizations. And many are biased toward a specific agenda they are pushing, and sometimes for profit groups have a .org. So .com, .org are equally
EDU. EDU is for education. EDU signals a page for a college or university website. Most .edu websites are considered reliable for research. But privately owned pages from faculty or students might contain inaccurate information. But this is the most authentic, most dependable website you can ever find on the internet. Next you have gov. .gov is indicative of government. Okay, and .mil, you can take both of them together. .gov and .mil. Mil is military information, and gov is governmental information. The websites ending with gov and mil or could be federal, state or local governments, including agencies. Mil, as I told you, is a website containing information from the military. They are generally acceptable for academic research papers. Okay, but be sure to check what if any vetting processes has been imposed on the given reports. Next, you have scholarly research engines. Every student should bookmark. Please make a note of this. These are your saviors. These search engines, these websites are very, very useful to you. Though directly it has nothing to do with the review of literature. For you to proceed with your research, these points are very essential. These websites are very essential. First of all, Google Scholar. Google Scholar was created as a tool to congregate scholarly literature on the web. From one place, students have the ability to hunt for peer-reviewed papers, theses, books, abstracts and articles from academic publishers, professional societies, preprint repositories, universities and other scholarly organizations. Then you have Google Books. Google Books allows web users to browse an index of thousands of books from popular titles to old to find pages that include your research theme. Once you find the book you are looking for, you can look through pages, find online reviews and learn where you can get a hard copy. Then you have this Microsoft Academic. Microsoft Academic is operated by the company that brings you MS Word, PowerPoint and Excel, etc. Microsoft Academic is a reliable, comprehensive research tool. The search engine pulls content from over 120 million publications. 120 million publications, including scientific papers, conferences and journals. You can search directly by topic, or you can search by an extensive list of fields of studies. For example, if you are interested in computer science, you can filter through topics such as the artificial intelligence, computer security, data science, programming language, and more. The other useful tool is your worldwide science. Worldwide science refers to itself as Global Science Gateway, is operated by the Office of Scientific and Technical Information, a branch of the Office of Science within the US Department of Energy. The site utilizes databases from over 70 countries. When users type a query, it hits database from all over the world and will display both English and translated results from related journals and academic sources. Then you have science.gov. Science.gov is operated and maintained by the Office of Science and Technological Information, the same department that collaborates with the worldwide science or worldwidescience.org. This search engine pulls from over 60 databases, over 2,200 websites, and 200 million pages of journals, documents, and scientific data. Search results can be filtered by author, date, topic, and format. Format in the sense whether it is text you want or multimedia. Next, you have Wolfram Alpha. Wolfram Alpha is a self-described computational knowledge engine. Wolfram Alpha does not so much provide search, and it does search answers. It searches answers. It gets you answers. For example, simply type in a question you may be interested in, such as what is the function of pancreas? And the answer will show up without making you scroll through pages of answers. This is especially handy for those in need of mathematics help. Then you have RefSeek. RefSeek. With its numerous design, RefSeek doesn't look like much. However, the engine pulls from over 1 billion web pages, journals, and books. Google uses functionality, except that it focuses more on scientific and academic results. Meaning, more results will come from .edu or .org sites as well as online encyclopedias. If it also has an option to search documents directly, providing easy access to PDF of academic papers. Next, we have this Education Research Information Center, ERIC, popularized by the US Department of Education. The Educational Research Information Center, popularly known as ERIC, ERIC, is a great tool for academic research with more than 1.3 million bibliographical records of articles and online materials. ERIC provides access to an extensive body of education-related literature, including journals, journal articles, books, research synthesis, conference papers, technical papers, policy papers, and more. With more than 8 million searches every month, it is no wonder why this search engine is a great web resource for education. Virtual Learning Resource Center. I have not put it here in the list. It doesn't appear in this PPT slide, but still, listen. VLRC, or the Virtual Learning Resource Center, is an online index hosting thousands of scholarly websites, all of which are selected by teachers and librarians from around the globe. The site provides students and teachers with current, valid information for school and university academic projects using an index gathered from research portals, universities, and library internet subjects recommended by teachers and librarians. Then another one which is not here in this list, iSeek, I-S-E-E-K. iSeek is a great search engine for students, teachers, and administrators alike. Simply ask a question or enter search topic or tools, and iSeek will pull from scholastic sources to find exactly what you are looking for. The search engine is safe, intelligent, and time-saving, and it draws from trusted resources from universities, government, and established non-commercial sites. Then you have ResearchGate. Again, I have not listed it here. ResearchGate is a unique social networking site for scientists and researchers. Over 11 million researchers submit their work, which totals more than 100 million publications on the site for anyone to access. You can search more publications, data, and author
You can search by publication, data, or author, or you can even ask the researcher questions. Though it is not a search engine that pulls from external sources, ResearchGate's own collection of publications provide a hearty selection for any inquisitive scholar. Then you have BASE. BASE, Bilefield Academic Search Engine, BASE, prides itself as being one of the world's most voluminous search engine, especially for academic web resources, utilizing 4,000 sources. The site contains results from over 100 million documents. The advanced search options allows you to narrow the research. So whether you are looking for a book, a review, lecture, video, or thesis, BASE can provide the specific format you need. Then you have Infotopia. Infotopia describes itself as Google alternative safe search engine. The academic search engine pulls from results that have been curated by librarians, teachers, and other educational workers. The unique search feature allows users to select a category which ranges from art to health to science and technology, and then see a list of internal and external resources pertaining to the topic. So if you don't find what you are looking for within the page of Infotopia, you will probably find it in one of its many suggested sites. You have PubMed Central, PUBMED, PubMed Central. This site is perfect for those studying anything related to healthcare or science. PubMed Central is operated by the National Center for Biotechnology Information, a division of the US National Library of Medicine. The database consists more than 3 million full-text journal articles. It's similar to PubMed Health, which is specifically for health-related search and studies, and includes citations and abstracts to more than 26 million articles. Then you have LexisWeb. LexisWeb. Are you researching legal topics? Then LexisWeb is your go-to for any law-related inquiries you may have. The results are drawn from legal sites, which can be filtered by criteria such as news, blogs, government, and commercial. Users can also filter results by jurisdiction, practice area, source, and file format. And you have this, which you are bound to read, you're bound to have a copy of this, follow this for your thesis, for writing your thesis, your style sheets. You should have your style sheet like the MLA handbook, APA style guide, or the Chicago Manual of Style. It depends on whether you have humanities as your subject research or science. It depends on that. Then you have a Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro technique is a time management method developed by Francisco Cirillo in the late 1980s. The technique uses a timer to break down work into intervals, traditionally 25 minutes in length, separated by short breaks. And then you have some very useful databases to search for journals and articles here in this list. First of all, you can depend on your own university catalog, university's library catalog. And then you have Google Scholar You have Infilibnet and Shodhganga, local Indian. And then you have Jester, EBSCO, and you have Project Muse for humanities and social sciences, Medline for life sciences and biomedicine, EconLit for economics, InSpecs for physics, engineering, and computer science. Well, with all this material, you start researching. Pulling up an internet search might be second nature to you by now. But a little forethought into where you begin your hunt can make your life much easier. Save yourself the time wading through the basic Google search results. Google is for ordinary people. You are a research scholar. You need to save your time and energy and utilize some of those tools to ensure your results will be up to par with, with academic standards. Use reference management software, citation management software, or bibliographic management software for scholars, which are meant for scholars and authors to use for recording and utilizing bibliographic citations, as well as managing project references, either as a company or as an individual. And you have the conventional print resources, not to mention. It is there. That's how we managed when we did our research. No computers, no internet. We had to practically go searching for books, hunting for books from library to library, from city to city. Okay. Printed resources are research reports, unpublished dissertations and theses, magazines and newspapers, conference papers and proceedings, encyclopedias and dictionaries, and books. Okay, with all these material, you will have to develop the literature review. A literature review is made up of a series of mini book reviews on materials read for the assignment. But remember, a good book review always has at least two distinct components. These two distinct components are a brief summary and a critique. A brief summary of the content of the books or articles together with an equally brief description of the importance of this piece of research for your own study. Why include this particular book or article? Remember, most books or articles are usually making just one key point. So what is that one key point in this particular book or article? And how does that claim relate to your own research or assignment? Then you have the critique. A critique of the book or article involves an analysis of the argument, including an assessment of the relative strengths and weaknesses of the evidence presented. Does the author produce sufficient evidence to establish the point they want to make? What has conveniently been left out or skated over? Where is the counter argument? And has the author dealt with this adequately? What is the author not saying? What would contradict their argument, and so on? Look carefully for the holes in the presentation. Remember, every author is spinning the evidence to make it show what they want it to show. Can you spin the same evidence in another direction? If so, what impact would this have on the overall argument? What if this particular author is completely wrong? Or the overall, or perhaps more likely, what if this particular author is only partially right? What difference would that make to your understanding of the topic? So this is how you have to make a critique. Steps of literature review. For each research paper or thesis you have chosen for review, ask yourself, what question or problem is the author addressing? What are the key concepts and how are they defined? What are the key theories, models, and methods? Does the research use established framework or take an innovative approach? What are the results and conclusions of this study? How does the publication relate to other literature in the field? Does it confirm, add to, or challenge established knowledge? How does the publication contribute to your understanding of the topic? What are its key insights and arguments? What are the strengths and weaknesses of the research? These are the points you have to ponder. Make sure the sources you use are credible. Make sure you read any landmark studies and major theories in your field of research. You can find out how many times an article has been cited on Google Scholar. A high citation count means the article has been influential in the field and should certainly be included in your literature review. The scope of your review will depend on your topic and discipline. In the sciences, you usually only review recent literature, but in the humanities, you might take a long historical perspective. For example, to trace how a concept has changed in meaning over time. Citation. Citation is the most crucial thing in your research. As you read, you should also begin the writing process. Take note that you can later incorporate into the text of your literature review. It is important to keep track of your sources with citation to avoid plagiarism. It can be helpful to make an annotated bibliography where you compile full citation information and write a paragraph of summary and analysis of each source. This helps you remember what you read and saves time later on in the process. The next step is to identify themes, debates, and gaps. To begin organizing your literature reviews argument and structure, you need to understand the connections and relationships between the sources you have read. Based on your reading and notes, you can look for trends and patterns, that is, in theory, method, or results. Do certain approaches become more or less popular over time? Themes. What questions or concepts recur across the literature? Debates. Conflicts and contradictions. Where do sources disagree? Pivotal publications. Pivotal publications are there, ask the question, are there any influential theories or studies that change the direction of the field? Gaps. What is missing from the literature? Are there weaknesses that need to be addressed? Okay. This step will help you work out the structure of your literature review and, if applicable, show how your own research will contribute to the existing knowledge. Okay, I shall conclude my talk by looking at the structure in two ways. Once you are ready to start writing, it is vital to think about how you will structure your literature review. Otherwise, there is a risk that it becomes very loose sequence of summaries rather than an integrated and logical review of existing work. Okay,
If you don't find that a structure develops organically, you could try following these suggestions. Chronologically, go chronologically. This can sometimes be a restrictive or overly simple way of presenting the final version of literature review, but in your first drafts, it may help to arrange the literature chronologically and trace threads, associations, and connections throughout. And you can go thematically. You might discuss the literature in relation to themes within your research or draw out comparable themes in the work you have read. Take care if you use themes and subthemes to put a clear signpost when moving between them. The pyramid, the pyramid form, you might want to start with a broader overview of relevant literature before narrowing towards discussing the texts or studies closest to your own topic. Structure it around your main research question and look at how others have addressed these questions. And we have almost come to the end of this discussion. The other structure the review of literature should have is the conventional 3 parts of any essay that you have been taught in your schools: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. Well, the introduction, the introduction should clearly establish the focus and purpose of the literature review. While writing the literature review as part of your dissertation or thesis, reiterate your central problem or research question and give a brief summary of the scholarly context. You can emphasize the timeliness of the topic, like many recent studies have focused on the problem of so-and-so, etc., or highlight a gap in the literature. Well, there have been so much research on X. Few researchers have taken Y into consideration, or substituting X and Y into the topics of your focus. And then you have the body. Depending on the length of your literature review, you have to divide the body into subtopics, subsections. You can use a subheading for each theme, time period, or methodological approach. As you write, you can follow these steps. Okay? Give an overview of the main points of each source and combine them into a coherent whole. That is, you must summarize and synthesize. Don't just paraphrase other researchers. Add your own interpretations wherever possible, discussing the significance of finding in relation to the literature as a whole. This is your analysis and interpretation. And then mention the strengths and weaknesses of your sources. This is a critical evaluation. Use transition words and topic sentences to draw connections, comparisons, and contrasts. That is, writing in a well-structured paragraphs. So, I conclude my talk by saying you should summarize the key findings you have taken from the literature and emphasize their significance. Thank you.